Hi, it's John Terry with Real Life Management, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Living Real Life. We're recording this on January the 3rd, 2022, and with me is the founder of Real Life Management, Wayne Nance. Now, Wayne, of all the things that people do when it comes to the end of the year and moving into the new year, and I've heard it all weekend, is let me tell you what I'm going to do different this year. Let me tell you about my New Year's resolution. Everybody makes them. But here's what we know. More than half of all resolutions made are going to fail in the first 30 days, and more than like 80% of them within the first 90 days. Wayne, what do you have to say about New Year's resolutions?
Well, I think it's humorous. I always look forward to it. I love the big three, John. The big three is I'm going to improve my finances, I'm going to get thinner and healthier, and I'm going to have my family like me better than they ever had before.
Those are three of the most common year after year after year. Everybody I've talked to this weekend, they come up and said, "What's your resolution?" And I said, "I don't have one." And they said, "What do you mean you don't have one?" I says, "Why do I have to wait all year and screw up for a whole year and then make a decision on one day I'm going to change everything? Why can't I just change everything a little bit at a time every day and try to get a little bit better?" And folks looked at me like I was crazy. But Wayne, when we think about the big three, we think about money, we think about weight, we think about relationships. As we're going into this new year, those are really the big three that we see in study after study every year. Why do those tend to come up as being the big three?
Well, John, you got to remember that people make their choices about their health, their money, and their relationship out of their attitude. And you and I've spent many a day talking about attitude. And attitude either comes out of your heart or your head. And just remember, John, that the head doesn't have a heart when it makes a choice, and the heart doesn't use its head when it makes a choice. And so people try to change. I don't believe in change. You know that. I believe we have to alter ourselves. I don't believe a zebra changes its stripes. I believe as a zebra gets older, its stripes just get wider.
You know, Wayne, one of the things that we've found with Real Life Management over 30 plus years of doing the research that we do and understanding human intelligence or human behavior, call it what you want to. I love to call it attitude psychographics. But as we look at human behavior going into the new year, why is there this unique desire or belief within us that we've got to make a new declaration and say, I'm going to do it different? Why do we do that, and why do we fail?
Well, John, first of all, everybody wants a clean slate. And so it's just natural that when the year turns, the 31st of the year changes, it gives us a clean slate. But the problem is that quick fixes never work. And budgets and diets, and I'm going to set boundaries on my relationship, tend to be quick fixes. And they never work. John, you know this for a fact. I had to lose over 100 pounds one year for my health. Hardest thing I ever did. But it wasn't a diet or a budget. Diets and budgets fail. They're quick fixes to a long-term problem. And so at the end of the day, we got to get our attitude adjusted and get our heart and our head and our choices in balance, or these quick fixes will continue to fail.
So, Wayne, if we look at the big three that we've got that most people choose as far as their resolutions for the year, let's take just a minute and talk about each one of those and maybe offer some real life tips that people can implement. So it's not a quick fix, but it's the altering of an attitude and an altering of a belief system that makes a difference. Let's start with money. If we could give one tip to those listening today to the podcast to work on one thing with their money that would give them a better outcome come December 31 next year, what would the one thing that you would recommend they think into and act upon in 2022?
John, every time we have the desire to buy something, I would write it on a piece of paper and put, is this a want or a need? Do I need this or do I want it? They're not the same. And if the answer when you write it on a piece of paper is I want it, don't buy it.
You know, Dad growing up and Mom had a rule that they taught me very similar to that, was if I saw something I thought I had to have, we had a 72-hour rule at the house, something my parents taught me early on, very similar to what you're saying. And that if I saw a new stereo system I wanted for my room and I had the money to buy it, then I made a commitment with Mom and Dad, I'd wait 72 hours. And in that 72 hours, I had an opportunity to think about, is that the best use of my money at the moment? And how many of us make spending decisions when it comes to our money, and we spend in the moment without thinking into, is this the best use of my money right now? And that's essentially what you're saying. Is it a want or a need? A want is something that we desire, but a need is something we have to have for our survival. And far too many of us think that we've got to have way too many things to survive that we really don't, that are wants in our lives. Now, Wayne, if we were to go a little deeper into that and further define wants and needs, and really maybe give somebody a tip that would help them in that area, what would be your guidance there?
Well, I think, John, that at the end of the day, we have to remember that about 98% of us have wants and needs confused. And I think that a lot of people try to get on what I call a budget, and budgets typically don't work if you're already in trouble. What a budget is it's supposed to be an indicator of where I'm going. And most people don't worry about where they're going. They look in the rear view mirror to decide where they've been. And I think that one of the things that I want people to do in 2022 is I only want us to look at where we've been, to look at some of the mistakes we've made. And in terms of wants and needs, I think we have to decide, and I'll give you an example, John. If I'm going to buy a new TV, do I need an 80-inch or will a 60-inch be okay? If I'm going to buy a new truck, do I need an $80,000 truck or will a $40,000 truck get me down the road? So I think what people have to do when they're trying to decide about a want and a need is they have to decide, what is the need? Is the need to get down the road? Is the need to watch TV? Or do I need to keep up with the Joneses? And by the way, we found out the Joneses are broke in debt.
You're absolutely right. And Wayne, you bring up a good point. I was talking to somebody the other day and I was doing some counseling with them on financial matters. And one of the things I talked to them about is they said, our car is worn out and we need a new car. And so I began to talk with them about a replacement vehicle. And by the time they got through describing this replacement vehicle they needed, it had every bell and whistle you could imagine, because in their mind, they needed it. And they were trying to justify the payment they were going to have. And my response back to them, I thought was interesting. I said, when you buy a car is designed to do one thing, is to get you from point A to point B. And then at the end of the day, it gets you from point B back to point A. And if you can do that, just as you said, with a $40,000 truck versus an $80,000 truck, and I can save the $40,000 and I can invest that over time, how much more money would I have? But it comes down to the fact that most people don't know about money. They don't understand money. They don't understand how money works, and they don't understand how to make money work for them to give them an opportunity to see success. And that's one of the things we teach here at Real Life with our 10 steps to financial freedom. But Wayne, I want to shift now to the health industry and really thinking about this year. I've got a good friend that has a fitness center. He said, John, I love January. He said, everybody comes in, they sign the 1-year contract, and the entire month of January, my gym is full with all these excited people. He said, then come February, it's about half full. He said, come March, it's empty, but I'm still getting paid for the rest of the year because they signed a 1-year contract. When it comes to health and wellness, Wayne, what's a tip that you'd share with the audience that they can think into having a thinner waistline in 2022?
Well, first of all, you have to decide, do I eat for comfort or do I eat for nutrition? Now, John, I got to 320 pounds at one point in my life, and I had to lose 100 pounds. And I want you to know that I never met a chicken fried steak, fries, and a Twinkie I didn't like. And I think that I didn't even know what nutrition was. I just knew that it sure tastes good. So I think that what we have to remember about health and nutrition and weight control is, are you eating for entertainment? Are you eating by the clock, whatever time it is? Are you eating out of emotion because you're depressed or you're sad or you're celebrating? So you have to decide, why am I eating? Am I eating because it's time to eat? Am I eating because I'm hungry? Am I eating to celebrate? Am I eating because it's now new drug of choice? I call food and money the top drugs of choice in America. And you see, it's not illegal or immoral to be fat and broke. That's not immoral or illegal. So I had to get my hands around, why was I eating? And John, I had this epiphany. I found out that I ate out of emotion or what time it was. I was not hungry most of the time.
So, Wayne, I think it really comes back to what we were talking about with money a minute ago. Do I need it for survival and for nutrition so that my body has the fuel it needs to be healthy and to maintain a robust immune system and be able to function? Or is it something I want? Now, under stress, that's where really that comfort comes in. Can you talk about stress and eating, Wayne?
Well, first of all, I believe that most of us that are overweight or fight the weight issue do eat out of stress. Because I believe most of us that live in today's world live under stress during the day more than we're not under stress. So what we do is we look for comfort, John. When we're under stress, we look for comfort. And you see, if you turn to food or you turn to spending, they're not frowned upon by society.
Right.
Alcohol or I take drugs, I'm a bad dude. I'm a bad person. But if I just get a little too much food in me and I gain about 50 pounds, or I just got my credit cards charged up, I'm accepted in today's world and it's okay. Well, it's not okay, John. If you do things that are addictive and you do it because you're under stress or distress and your life's out of control, that has a bad ending. And that, quite frankly, that's where I was headed, was a bad ending.
Yeah. And the other thing we know from our studies in neuroscience and looking at how the body responds, anytime we do something that gives us comfort, our brain responds with the release of dopamine. Now, for those that don't know what dopamine is, that's a chemical that your brain releases in response to something that gives you comfort or pleasure. And it reinforces what you just did as something that was fun, entertaining, felt good, or brought you a sense of fulfillment in some way. And now you begin to get into this vicious cycle of, man, I sure was stressed out, but when I ate that Twinkie, it sure made me feel good. I think I need to eat another one. And you get another dump of dopamine, which reinforces that bad behavior, those bad choices. And then the next thing you know, Wayne, like you said, you're 320 pounds and wondering where it came from. So how do we combat that stress desire to go feed that dopamine addiction?
Now, John, I want to clarify something. I wasn't fat. I was large bone, slow metabolism, and I had a really big thyroid. So I was never overweight, John.
And everybody in your family was that way, right?
We all had an excuse. And by the way, if you're going to be broke and overweight, always have good excuses.
That's right. Yeah. So how do we overcome that dopamine addiction, Wayne? When we get under stress, how do we say no to overspending or no to overeating?
Well, first of all, John, I believe that you're actually leading with your question to the third issue, which is broken relationships in our life. Okay. And I believe that if you trace addiction, whether it be food or spending or whatever it is, if you trace it back to family relationships and friend relationships and work relationships, I believe that we live under so much stress. And I grew up in what was called a dysfunctional family, which I didn't know everybody else was dysfunctional. I thought we were the only. But I found that a dysfunctional family is normal in America. I only worry about normal families. They're really messed up, John. But a dysfunctional family means that I didn't have the love and acceptance from my parents or my friends or my schoolmates or my workmates. I didn't have what I needed. I'm looking for something to make me feel better today. And I believe a lot of the spending issues and a lot of the eating issues, John, comes out of the broken relationship issues and how I feel about myself.
So, Wayne, if we're talking about relationships, and I agree with you because I see that a lot in the coaching and consulting that I do with real life, is running into individuals that are stressed because of a relationship. And as a result of that, they've got to find a way to get that stress off of them. So it's real easy to grab the Visa, the MasterCard, the Discover. You pick the credit card brand and go swipe that at the store and get a new pair of shoes or a new suit, or go to the restaurant and find the biggest buffet you can. And you only eat one plate, but you pile it this high. And then you can go home and say, I only had one plate of food, even though there were 5 plates of food piled that high. We get into these patterns of misbehavior, as I like to refer to it, because of those broken relationships. What are some things we can do, Wayne, to recognize when we're dealing with stress in those relationships so that we can catch ourselves before we go make those bad choices?
John, I think it's one word, the word no. I tell people that are struggling with relationships, whether they be past or present, and typically, John, if you're struggling in a relationship and you're 50, you were struggling in relationships at 15 or at 30. It's not like a new deal. And most people that struggle in relationships, it's either from their head or their heart. Their heart lets people get away with everything, or their head is a hard to deal with person and nobody likes them. I mean, it's kind of one of the two a lot of times. And what I say is learn to say no. If you are struggling in relationships, it's usually because you don't say no enough, or you say no too much. Now, if you say no all the time, lighten up. If you never say no, straighten up, meaning start setting boundaries in your life. Because if we don't set the boundaries in the life, you can't have enough French fries to make you happy. If you can't have enough credit debt and enough shopping to make you happy. So I believe the word no is a critical word emotionally. Some people say it too much, and some people say it not enough. Those who say no all the time need to lighten up. Those who say no never need to straighten up and set boundaries.
Wayne, as we get ready to wrap up this particular episode of Living Real Life, and we're thinking into 2022, if you could issue a challenge to the listening audience and give them something to look as a way to gain some control over their lives in this coming year, what would that be?
It would be to, one, understand that you're not in control of anything in your life, but you can make choices every day that are better. I've realized, John, after writing many books, doing many talks, training, coaching my whole life, I don't really control anything except one thing. I control tomorrow what I put in my mouth. I control tomorrow what I spend. I control tomorrow if I say no in a relationship, or I lighten up in a relationship and stop saying no so much. And I only look at tomorrow, John, and today. That's it. I try to get through today, and then I'm looking ahead tonight to tomorrow. I don't worry about next week, next month, next year. I try to get through one day at a time. Now that I'm in my 70s, I really do appreciate the one day at a time. I think that I don't think I'm in control of anything or anybody anymore. I had to get over that. But what I am in control of is what am I going to do today to put in my mouth, to spend? What am I going to do in my relationship today, and get prepared for tomorrow? And that's all I would recommend to people is look at life as a bite size. You can't eat an elephant in one bite. We must eat one bite at a time. Take life one bite at a time and decide, do I need that, what I'm eating? Do I need what I'm spending? Do I need this relationship? And get focused.
Yeah, Wayne, I agree with that. It's the choices we make every day that bring about the outcomes in life that we experience tomorrow. One of the things I told my kids from the time they were little bitty growing up is life is choices and consequences. They get to choose their choices today, and that's going to be the consequences of their life they experience tomorrow. And if they wake up and they don't like the consequences they're experiencing, what's got to change? The choices. Now, here at Real Life, we teach that ABC model. Your attitude, your beliefs, and your choices are going to ultimately work together to create the destiny you're going to experience. And all of us have a dream destiny that we want to achieve. Maybe it's a big house. Maybe it's a big, it's a nice job. Maybe it's being an entrepreneur. Maybe it's being a successful painter or author. Whatever it is, we all have a destiny that we want. But our attitude, beliefs, and choices are either going to push us towards that dream destiny, or it's going to push us to another destiny that's made by our choices. So, Wayne, for those that want to understand more about their attitudes, their beliefs, and their choices, we have a tool on our website, reallifemanagement.com, called the 3-Minute Survey. Can you take just a minute and share with those that maybe haven't heard the story before of what they're going to learn when they take a free 3-minute survey and get a chance to understand a little bit more about what may be causing their problems in 2022, and get them on a road to not fix it, but alter it for the better?
Well, first of all, John, I do not believe in personality tests. And in my book and in our talks that we do and things that you and I talk about, I don't believe in personality tests. The Real Life Management 3-Minute Survey because we had to use it in military research and in violence research and in some really deep areas. It goes 128 layers deep when you take the survey, and personality tests go 4 layers deep. So if someone really wants to see who they are and why they do make the choices they make, the survey will allow them in 3 minutes to understand why they're doing what they do. Because I call it an attitude MRI, John. I can't help you fix something until I know what's wrong, right?
That's right.
So basically, the survey will tell you what you're doing and why you're doing it. Now, it doesn't solve everything, John. It doesn't give you a carte blanche, solution in the morning that you can fix everything. It's not a quick fix, but it's an identification tool in 3 minutes of which kind of attitude do you have? A head attitude, a heart attitude, a combination attitude, so that you know how to get on the right path for solutions. And John, you said something a while ago very important about choices today. I always believe that the people that watch this video today need to remember one thing. Your attitude choices today will be your reality tomorrow.
That's right.
It's that simple. So before we try to fix all these quick fixes, I think the 3-minute survey tells us where are you, and it shows you why you're there, and it shows you a path that you need to improve. That's what the purpose of the survey is.
Fantastic. Well, Wayne, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to spend a few minutes on this interview together. It's not often we get a chance to have the founder of Real Life Management on a podcast with us. So I want to thank you for taking some time. And I want to say thank you for the 30 plus years of work that you've done in this area of attitude psychographics, really helping people understand and gain intelligence around the humanity of who they are, and realizing maybe for the very first time that the things that they're doing and they're wondering why has a whole lot to do with their attitude and their beliefs. And one of the things that we do at Real Life Management is we help people understand their attitude, understand the limiting beliefs that are holding them back from achieving their full potential, and then getting them on a path to become a better version of themselves. So on behalf of all of us here at Real Life Management, I'm John Terry, and I want to say thank you for joining us for this episode of Living Real Life. We want to wish you a very happy 2022. So do us a favor, go to reallifemanagement.com, take the 3-minute survey, and we look forward to seeing your results and hopefully having a further conversation about your results, what they say about you, and how we can help you truly learn how to live real life.